Well, let's talk about the difference between regular recurring revenues and one-time or dedicated revenues. There are times when we get special revenues, we get grants or a dedicated revenue source, and it is restricted in nature. For example, a grant to build a park or develop or redevelop a park can't necessarily, or by contract, can't be used to pay salaries or pay benefits. That's by design, because the oversight agency says we want this money to go into a particular area that we see as a priority. They wouldn't want cities applying for a particular funding source, a grant, saying we're going to build a park and then turning around and using the money to pay salaries or benefits to employees. So the one-time funding sources or restricted funding sources, while they provide an opportunity sometimes to address issues, they often don't provide resources to address ongoing maintenance issues or salary and benefit issues, those kinds of things. There's been some concern or some press lately about property tax, about values going up dramatically. Property taxes and the value of property in San Angelo has been an issue for an extended period of time. It's not an issue it's not a new issue from our perspective. When properties are valued for tax purposes at less than their true value, that makes the rate artificially high. In other words, if a property is worth $100 and it's taxed at $80, the property tax rate is going to have to be higher in order to generate the same revenue. And so when you have a system where values are low across the board, you set yourself up to have the potential for an artificially high property tax rate. Another issue is dramatic or significant increases in one year with no increases in other years. This is a similar kind of philosophy in my mind to the water and sewer rates. When you go for an extended period of time with no increases, with the reality being the value is increasing steadily, slowly and steadily, and then you increase dramatically all in one year, you create a crisis, or you can create a crisis or a hardship for a citizen, for the property owner, whether it's a citizen or a business. Like water and sewer rates, those values probably should increase steadily, a small amount over time, that in a way that more reflects the reality of the economic or true value of the property. In order to do that, our appraisal district has to address those on a more frequent basis, and in order to do that, they need adequate staffing. Part of trying to keep rates and fees as low as possible is to do with as little staff as possible, but there are trade-offs. It is very much a balancing act between this stop-and-go experience we're having with property values and a more steady approach that results in less crisis during periods where the values are caught up to their true value. We continue to try to keep the long-term view, address short-term issues as they come up, but try to keep the long-term view as it relates to, especially to big and expensive issues. We've heard talk lately from Will Wilde about long-term water supply. We need to be thinking about those things. We may not need those supplies until well into the future, but the supplies we use now, years ago, decades ago, officials at that time said we need to be thinking long-term, and we're experiencing the benefits of someone's forethought decades ago. And so we need to be planning now for success 10, 20, 30 years from now. That includes both preventing issues, preventing obstacles or problems by making small adjustments now, but it also includes preventing problems by sometimes, if necessary, taking big steps. And that's what a long-term water supply could be. They talked about a lot of money, and if necessary, if that's what's going to be necessary for the long-term, mid-term, and long-term viability of this municipality, then that's something we need to begin discussing now. So the long-term water supply is a good example of that, but that long-term mindset is one that we're trying to maintain in all areas, hoping that by thinking long-term now, we're preventing these smaller issues from jumping up and biting us later on, and hoping that this extra effort now will result in a smoother, more stable, more effective organization in the future.